Hello, everyone. Have you ever thought that a teenager with innocent eyes and a heart yearning for love could become a tool in a murder conspiracy? Sabrina Zunich was born on October 27, 1994, in the suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio. Growing up in a family where both parents were alcoholics and subjected her to constant abuse, Sabrina spent her childhood moving between foster homes. By the age of 16, she had never had a stable home or foster parents who truly cared for her. She longed for a real family, a place where she felt safe and protected, but those dreams seemed out of reach. Her encounter with Lisa Knofel, a social worker, brought a new glimmer of hope. From their very first conversation, Lisa felt a deep sympathy and connection with the young girl. Believing that she and her husband, Kevin, could provide Sabrina with a stable life, Lisa made a major decision to adopt her. Having adopted children before, Lisa vividly remembered the day the whole family went to pick Sabrina up. At first glance, Sabrina appeared to be a sweet girl, and Lisa was convinced she could become a loving sister to her two young daughters, Megan and Haley. From the day she was adopted, Sabrina made great efforts to adapt. She diligently attended counseling sessions to learn how to cope with life's challenges. At the same time, she focused on her studies and achieved good academic performance, quickly integrating into the Knofel family. Over a year passed, and everything seemed to be going well. Sabrina became increasingly attached to Megan and Haley while also developing a close relationship with Kevin. However, not long after, strange things began happening in the household. Kevin started spending more time alone with Sabrina, neglecting the rest of the family. Noticing this change, Lisa tried to discuss it with Kevin via text messages, but he dismissed her concerns, insisting that she was overreacting. With her experience in family services, Lisa quickly sensed that something was wrong between Kevin and Sabrina. She realized that Sabrina, a girl who had never truly experienced love or security, could easily fall prey to Kevin's manipulation. He was no different from the predators Lisa had worked to protect other victims from. Unable to find concrete evidence of her suspicions, Lisa began discussing divorce with Kevin and considered returning Sabrina to the foster system. However, Kevin insisted that they should wait until Sabrina graduated high school before letting her go. During this time, Lisa became stricter with Sabrina, ensuring she stayed home to prevent Kevin from approaching her. However, Lisa's protection became excessive. Gradually, Sabrina was isolated from her sisters, Megan and Haley, making the household atmosphere increasingly tense. Conflict arose not only between Lisa and Sabrina, but also between Sabrina and Megan. Things got worse and worse. I never thought it would go this far. That day, I found it strange when Dad was leaving for work. Sabrina hugged him, and they whispered to each other for a long time, Megan recalled. A blood-soaked tragedy. Megan recounted that she noticed Sabrina receiving an unusual number of messages during dinner, which continued throughout the evening. Even past bedtime, Sabrina's phone kept ringing from the next room. Then, at around 1 a.m., a piercing scream shattered the quiet night. Running downstairs, Megan saw Sabrina stabbing her mother. In utter panic, she screamed, "Don't hurt my mom!" and tried to intervene, but was pushed aside by Sabrina. With no other option, Megan rushed to her room and dialed 911. The 13-year-old girl desperately tried to explain the situation to the emergency dispatcher while simultaneously struggling with Sabrina to protect her mother. That 6-minute-long scuffle became the worst nightmare of Megan's life. The memory of that horrifying night haunted her, robbing her of sleep and leaving her unsure when the pain would ever subside. When the police arrived at the scene, they mistook Megan for Sabrina and immediately aimed their guns at her. In panic, Megan screamed, "You need to hurry, hurry!" Once the officers realized she was not the killer, they moved further into the house, calling out for Sabrina and Lisa, but were met with eerie silence. Finally, in the first room just past the staircase, they came face to face with Sabrina. She stood there, covered in blood, still gripping the knife. At that moment, the tension was suffocating, one officer recalled. I saw the blood dripping from the blade, saw the blood covering her. We immediately shouted for her to drop the knife. Sabrina stood motionless, staring blankly at the officer for a few seconds, as if entranced. Then suddenly, she dropped the knife and raised her hands in surrender. As her hands were cuffed, Officer Randy Mullinax moved toward the bed where Lisa lay. It was hard to make out anything, Mullinax recalled. The victim looked as if she had been bathed in blood. At that moment, I knew there was nothing we could do to save her. When Sabrina was escorted outside, Mullinax began inspecting the scene. Suddenly, a strange sound startled him. It was the cry of a child. Following the sound, they discovered a very young girl sobbing inside a wardrobe. It was Haley Knofel, Megan's youngest sister, who had crawled into the closet to hide when the attack occurred. After being arrested, Sabrina was taken to the hospital to treat the wounds on her hands, a result of her struggle with Lisa and Megan. Once her condition stabilized, the police brought her back to the station and immediately began the interrogation. There, Sabrina pretended as if she remembered nothing about what had happened. However, when the detectives mentioned Haley and Megan, she couldn't conceal her emotions. The primary goal of the first interview was to uncover the truth. They had seen her step out of the room with a knife in her hand, proving that she was the perpetrator. More than an hour passed, yet Sabrina continued to insist that she remembered nothing. She claimed to have taken too much ibuprofen, passed out, and only regained consciousness in the hospital. But she couldn't deceive Parmeter, a seasoned detective. He noticed something odd. Sabrina unconsciously scratched her forehead for no apparent reason. From his experience, actions like touching the face, scratching the forehead, or tapping the feet often indicated that a person was lying or feeling anxious. Some officers at the station believed an investigation wasn't necessary since they had caught Sabrina red-handed with a murder weapon, and Megan was a key witness. However, Parmeter found it puzzling. Rarely did a suspect completely deny involvement when caught at the scene. This led him to make an important decision: to invite Kevin in for questioning. Surprisingly, Kevin refused the invitation through his lawyer, Michael Connick. To persuade both of them to cooperate, Parmeter fabricated a reason, stating that they would only discuss Lisa's work. The police couldn't help but find this suspicious. Why didn't Kevin want to help? Why was Michael so adamantly protecting his client? But what truly shocked Parmeter was their reaction when he mentioned Sabrina. Up until that moment, the detective had no knowledge of the strange relationship between Kevin and Sabrina. After the incident, Kevin spent a few days taking care of Megan before her biological father took her away from the house. However, in that short time, the 13-year-old girl witnessed several unusual occurrences following the horrifying tragedy. Just hours after his wife was murdered, Kevin called the insurance company. It turned out that he had canceled his own and his children's policies, transferred all benefits to Lisa's name, and increased the coverage fourfold, just 6 months before her death. After the call, Kevin received over $785,000 in insurance money, and that very morning withdrew and spent it all. He bought an RV, renovated the house, and indulged in lavish expenses, all funded by the insurance payout from his deceased wife. The very next day, Kevin began discarding Lisa's belongings as if she had never existed. These actions made Megan deeply suspicious. Her mother hadn't died from cancer or any illness. She had been brutally murdered. The coldness and bizarre behavior of her stepfather solidified Megan's belief that this wasn't just a random tragedy, but meticulously planned murder. During the remaining time, Kevin tried to visit Sabrina in prison every day, but was refused. Megan couldn't help but wonder why Kevin was acting like this, but his strange behavior didn't stop there. The next day, Kevin brought an axe into her mother's bedroom and repeatedly used it to hack apart the bed, where Lisa had been stabbed to death. Even after reuniting with her biological father, Megan's suspicions continued to grow. Every time she saw Kevin, she noticed something strange about his behavior. At Lisa's funeral, Kevin shocked everyone by asking them to pray for Sabrina, the very person accused of murdering the woman they had gathered to mourn. With just one glance at her stepfather that day, Megan felt an unsettling chill. Kevin showed no emotion, not even shedding a single tear. It was as if, to him, her mother had never existed. 6 months later, the case seemed to have gone cold. Both Megan and Detective Parmenter were convinced that Sabrina was the perpetrator, but the motive behind her actions remained a mystery. Meanwhile, they couldn't shake the eerie feeling about Kevin's behavior ever since his wife's murder. Everything changed when Sabrina, still in custody, agreed to meet with prosecutor Karen Kowal through a process called a proffer. A proffer is a preliminary step to demonstrate goodwill. It allows defense attorneys and prosecutors to meet with the accused, giving them an opportunity to speak honestly and reveal the full truth about what happened. As Parmenter and Kowal continued their investigation, they began to suspect that Sabrina had been trying to protect someone when she claimed she had blacked out during the attack. Even while in custody, Sabrina seemed deeply remorseful for what she had done, and her concern for her foster family never faded. Thus, Kowal got straight to the point during the interview. From what they gathered, Sabrina seemed to have been sexually abused by her adoptive father, Kevin. He tried to build Sabrina's trust by showing her particular attention, giving her gifts that made a 17-year-old girl feel deeply dependent on him. He even promised to help her get into medical school and suggested that she practice on his body. Unsurprisingly, within a short time, he got what he wanted, and they engaged in this every time they were alone together. It was disgusting. During one visit, when Sabrina had to undergo an appendectomy, I went to see her in the hospital. Not long after I left, I realized I had forgotten something and went back to get it, only to witness Kevin having sex with her on the hospital bed, right after she had just undergone surgery. That scene made me feel absolutely sick, recounted Nicole Corbett, a social worker. The situation worsened as Kevin, after each sexual encounter, insisted that the only way for them to be together was to eliminate Lisa permanently. Gradually, he succeeded in manipulating Sabrina into believing that killing Lisa was the only option. However, things did not go as planned. Lisa woke up while Sabrina was standing by her adoptive mother's bed. Realizing she had crossed an irreversible line, Sabrina attacked Lisa, and the situation escalated further when she saw Megan trying to protect her mother. The breakthrough. At first, Kowal and Parmenter were skeptical, as Sabrina could have easily fabricated the story. However, rather than displaying the typical signs of deception, she was now confident, assertive, and consistent in her account. The police reached out to Sabrina's closest friend, Autumn. The two shared all their secrets and often confided in each other about their family lives. Autumn was the person Sabrina had once expressed her fears and suspicions about Kevin's strange behavior toward her. Although Autumn had no direct relationship with Kevin, through Sabrina, she recognized him as a controlling, manipulative, and untrustworthy person. She had even warned Sabrina about the psychological manipulation tactics Kevin was using on her. Autumn revealed that she had once overheard Kevin discussing a plan to have Lisa murdered by his foster daughter. As a result, the police equipped Autumn with a wiretap and sent her to confront Kevin. When she accused him of orchestrating his wife's murder through his foster daughter, Kevin neither denied nor reacted at all. If you were innocent and falsely accused of being involved in such a crime, your instinctive response would be to immediately refute it, saying something like, "What are you talking about? I have no idea what you mean." However, Kevin's lack of reaction was telling. With Sabrina's and Autumn's statements, Parmenter wasted no time. He and the police immediately went to Kevin Nofel's house to arrest him. Not long after his arrest, a Lake County grand jury indicted Kevin for conspiring to murder Lisa with the help of his foster daughter. Additionally, he was charged with sexual assault due to his illicit relationship with the teenager. During the trial, 12 witnesses testified, including Sabrina's teachers, social workers, as well as the Nofel family's friends and relatives. Each one of them confirmed Kevin's suspicious behavior after the murder, and many had either known about or witnessed his inappropriate advances toward Sabrina. Even Kevin's best friend, David Strunk, testified against him. In a report he filled out just weeks after the crime, David revealed that Kevin had immediately wanted to show him explicit photos of Sabrina and constantly talked about wanting to visit her in prison. He told me he just wanted to let her know he was still there to support her. I was shocked that he would want to visit the person who had just killed his wife. After 9 hours of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Kevin Knofel was convicted of 3 charges: sexual assault, conspiracy to commit murder, and complicity in murder. In an interview with Karen Kowal, the lead prosecutor in the case, journalist Josh Mankiewicz remarked that despite the conviction, there was no real sense of satisfaction in the outcome. In reality, this was a cycle of betrayal. Kevin betrayed Lisa, Sabrina betrayed Lisa, then Kevin betrayed Sabrina, and in the end, Sabrina betrayed Kevin. The journalist reflected. However, the journalist forgot one crucial person in this story: Megan. She not only witnessed the brutal attack, but also tried in vain to save her mother. Now, she has to carry that pain for the rest of her life. If I had to choose one emotion, I would say anger. I'm very angry. Losing someone who helped so many people and did everything she could for her family is truly devastating. Megan said. Sabrina pleaded guilty to all charges and, like Kevin, was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole until 2042. During the trial, 19-year-old Sabrina Zunich admitted that she had loved her foster father and was afraid he would commit suicide if she didn't go through with his plan to kill his wife. By 2017, Haley and Megan filed a lawsuit and were awarded over $6 million in damages. From her cell in Dayton Correctional Institution, Sabrina has been interviewed twice since her incarceration. Once by Dateline in 2015 and again by HLN in 2020. In both interviews, she pleaded for forgiveness from her foster sisters. I now realize that there was more than one victim in this story. If I had the chance, I would tell them that I was selfish, I am sorry, and I never meant to hurt them. And I know, how can I even say that when I killed their mother? I was in a state where I didn't think about anyone but myself, and that was a mistake, an irreversible one. No matter what I say, I can't bring her back. I can't undo what happened or what they felt. But if anything could mean something, I truly am sorry. Since Sabrina and Kevin's conviction, Megan has grown into a strong and independent woman. While she may never forgive her foster sister, she has transformed her pain into purpose. She majored in criminal justice, hoping that one day she could bring justice to those who, like her, have been victims of unimaginable circumstances. Sabrina, once a teenage girl embraced by the loving arms of Lisa, never imagined that her life would take such a dark turn. Manipulated and exploited by her ruthless stepfather, she was drawn into a web of lies and crime. Under his control, she committed the ultimate betrayal, murdering the very woman who had cared for and protected her like her own daughter. This case was shocking not only because of its brutality, but also because it demonstrated how familial love was twisted into a tool for manipulation, shattering the very foundation of trust and morality within a household. Many people sympathize with Sabrina, while others condemn her, arguing that at 17 years old, she was old enough to know right from wrong. And what do you think?